described what taxation is. So many of us have been able to describe what taxation is. And we have said taxation is a compulsory levy that is imposed on taxpayers, who can be either an individual or a legal entity, like many of us have rightly said, by the government organization in order to fund spending and various public expenditure. I'm sure many of us will say, we pay tax, we are not seeing what we are using it for and all that. That's a different discussion for another day. But for today, we'll be talking basically about what tax is supposed to be and what our expectations are, both of ourselves, especially of us by the government. That is what we'll be focusing on today. Now, let's talk about the regulatory framework for taxation. The Nigerian fiscal regime is based on statutes and practice. And these statutes and practices are supported by the Federal Inland Revenue Service of Nigeria. This Federal Inland Revenue Service has statutes and practices that govern it. And these statutes from time to time are always amended and updated. Amendments are always published in what is called the Financial Gazette of the appropriate tier of government. And this tier of government, we usually have 3 tiers of government. First of all, you have the federal, which is governed by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, which many of us are aware of. You have the state, which is governed by each state internal revenue service. And also we have the local government. These local government revenue services also collect a particular set of taxes. Everyone, whether you are an individual, you're a company, you're a citizen, foreigner in that country, whether you are a manufacturer, whether you are a marketer, an employee, whatever you are, even pensioners pay tax in one way or the other. And in this regard, we know that SMEs fall under any one of these categories. An SME could be owned by an individual, it could be a group of people who came together, marketers and whatever it is. So SMEs fall under any of these categories. And the administration of taxes, like I said before, in Nigeria is vested in the Federal Inland Revenue Service, which is the FIRS, and the State Board of Internal Revenue. In Nigeria, there are certain types of SMEs that we have, and these SMEs are taxable in Nigeria. Now, we have 2 basic types of companies in Nigeria, and these companies are limited liability companies or registered business names. Both of these kinds of businesses, like I've said here, are recognized and legal in Nigeria, and they are perfectly able to conduct business in Nigeria. We are going to look at 2 intricacies, 2 things that are particularly of interest, even in these 2 different kind of companies that are registered and taxable in Nigeria. Now, limited liability companies, as we all know, or as the name also implies, limited liability companies in Nigeria are limited by share ownership. They are the companies that, so to say, have their shares sold out to people, a few particular set of people. These are different from public limited liability companies. Public limited liability companies are not considered as small, they are not considered as SMEs, but limited liability companies are considered as SMEs because they are limited by share ownership. And as soon as you register a company as a limited liability company in Nigeria, that company becomes liable to taxes. And being liable to taxes, you're either liable to direct taxes or indirect taxes. Now, let me sound a note of warning here for us. For those of us who probably have already registered limited liability companies in Nigeria, there are some things that we need to take note of. Sorry, I didn't put them here in this slide, but I just need us to take note of it. If you get your pen or whatever, just take note of this that I'm about to say. Now, if you have registered a limited liability company, with the Corporate Affairs Commission in Nigeria, and you have opened a bank account in your company name, are we noting it? You have opened a bank account in your company name. Please do not use that account for personal transactions. If you have a limited liability company and you have opened a bank account in that company's name, never use it for your personal transactions. If you do, what is the risk? You run the risk of having tax issues with the FIRS, because FIRS believes that any money that comes into the bank account of a limited liability company is taxable. That is one thing you should note. Secondly, when FIRS discovers that such bank accounts, you know you have a BVN that is easy for them to trace. When FIRS discovers that such bank accounts have done such transactions, they will ask you to account for every kobo that comes into that account. And they will also ask you to present different and funny kinds of statements. They'll be asking you for audited accounts, management accounts, cash book, and all those things, which you'll be expected to show, because they now want this as evidence that they will use, not let me say against you, but evidence they will use to calculate whatever value-added tax or withholding tax payments that you're supposed to have remitted to them and you have not remitted till date. Thirdly, if you claim that your company is not doing any business yet, a limited liability company that you registered in Nigeria, and you say it's not doing business yet, they will not believe you if you have started using that account to run your personal whatever. They will not believe you because they can obviously see transactions in your bank account. Sorry, I'm laying down all these principles, first of all, for us to note before we now go into the various taxes, so that you will now know the implication of some of these taxes that are being meted on SMEs. These are some of the risks that you tend to run foul of if you do not follow these instructions to the letter. So once you have made transactions in your account, they will assume that you already have inflows in your bank account. And then those transactions, they will now begin to compute your VAT on those transactions, and they will expect you to have done what you call withholding tax on those transactions. So this is something that we really need to be careful and wary of. So I want to advise, if you have a company that is registered and you have not started business, please, for your own sake, and for you to not to be unlawfully, so to say, taxed, it is better that you do not open an account in that company's name and begin to transact on it. Even if you have opened an account, just leave it. Make sure there is no transaction that is going in and out, except it is a business transaction that relates to your business. In that way, you will only have minimum tax to pay. That's almost no tax, if that is it. And then you will also be liable to pay only payee, which is the pay as you earn for your employees. And also, if you have registered a limited liability company and have not started business, please ensure that you also always file your zero returns with the FIRS. I will come to that later. If you want to do business in Nigeria for whatever reason, and you do not want any complications, so to say, then I suggest that you probably just register a business name and have that as what you use to do your business in Nigeria. Now, I think that is clear to all of us. Those are some of the things I want us to note with limited liability companies.